Murder doesn't lead to more violence and rioting.
Those words were so powerful, so heartfelt, so spontaneous and generous.
A quiet night on the streets last night, but a busy one for the courts. They sat all night to bring those accused of looting and violence to justice.
Meanwhile, some stores and businesses tonight still close early again.
It's a bit eerie walking around and seeing all the shops like this.
And after the riots, the Home Office considers banning an EDL protest. Shopkeepers in Shropshire prepare for the worst.
Good evening, welcome to Midlands Today from the BBC. Tonight, it was a powerful and generous appeal for calm. That's how the West Midlands Chief Constable described a grieving father's appeal for an end to the violence following the killing of his son. He also said he believed Tariq Jahan's dignified call for calm had stopped the tensions escalating.
Haroon Jahan was killed in a hit-and-run along with brothers Shahzad Ali and Abdul Musavir in Winson Green in Birmingham early yesterday morning. It was feared their murders, as they tried to protect businesses and properties from looters, could ignite more violence and rioting. Mary Rhodes reports.
The tributes keep coming. Members of the community and people from outside the area continue to pay their respects to the three men who lost their lives on Wednesday morning.
I feel it bad, and
You seem very emotional about it.
Yeah, I am. There's nothing to sit in there, is this?
We just hope that everybody unites together. It doesn't matter what colour, whatever, because this is a loss for no reason.
Three innocent people. It's just amazing that this sort of thing's happening. We've obviously just come to show the respect to the families.
Two brothers, Shahzad Ali and Abdul Musavir, and 21-year-old Haroon Jahan were killed after they were hit by a car. The Chief Constable of West Midlands Police, Chris Sims, met with Haroon's father this lunchtime. Yesterday, Tariq Jahan had appealed for calm.
Today we stand here to plead with all the youth to remain calm, for our communities to stand united.
Those words were so powerful, so heartfelt, so spontaneous and generous that I think anyone that heard them must have been moved, and certainly anyone that felt that there was any mileage from continuing a cycle of violence in the name of those young men that died, I think will have thought twice about it.
It seems the call has, so far, been listened to. A vigil held late last night passed off peacefully.
Sikhs and Muslims have been branded always for many years, since I remember, as extremists and terrorists. Yet there was more than 500 people here. There was not one stone thrown. Where was the extremism? The hooliganism and the extremism and terrorism was running around the UK.
You put a question to the Chief Constable today. What did you ask him? What did he say?
I said to him, was that how many more people have to die before this hooliganism comes to an end? And he responded back by saying, we are working very hard at this, and soon it will come to an end.
At prayers this afternoon, a brother was left grieving.
And I'm just the one son left now. I'm the oldest, and I'm the backbone of the family. So I have to be strong in myself and not, break in pieces. You know what I mean? I'm trying to break, the pieces that are broken. I'm gluing them back together, and making it whole again.
The sense of shock is still very raw in Winson Green, a community united in grief.
And we'll be hearing more from Chief Constable Chris Sims when he joins us live later in the programme. First, though, Mary Rhodes is in Winson Green now. Mary, have there been any developments tonight?
Yes, Michael, detectives investigating the deaths of the three men killed here have today arrested three more men on suspicion of murder, and the 32-year-old man previously arrested has been bailed pending further inquiries. Well, the mood all day here has been one of sorrow and grief, and more people have been coming to lay wreaths and pay their respects. Family members have been down here this afternoon and meeting with the community and gathering a lot of support from all members of the community. And when I was down here today, I was struck that there were people coming from outside Winson Green, and just that general sense of shock and grief and wanting to unite as a community. And it seems as though that call from from Tariq Jahan for calm has certainly been heeded, and the hope here and in the wider community is that that will also be apparent tonight, and there will be a second night of calm as the community is still deeply united in grief.
Mary Rhodes in Winson Green. Thank you.
Well, last night, a quiet night on our streets, but a busy one in court. Magistrates in Solihull sat throughout the night to deal with dozens of people accused of looting and violence during 2 nights of rioting across Birmingham and the Black Country. Almost a quarter of the cases involved children. Well, let's go live now to Ben Godfrey at Solihull Magistrates Court. So, Ben, this is very unusual to have an all-night sitting like this, isn't it?
It is, Suzanne. What we saw overnight last night, starting at about 7:30, finishing at 6 this morning, was a sort of conveyor belt of alleged criminality. Some admit it, some not. 27 people processed, offenders around our region today. 20 have been remanded in custody, some sentenced, some told to come back to court at a later date. Sort of offences we're talking about: burglary, theft and arson, ages ranging between the age of 14 and 44.
So, Ben, tell us about some of those people that have been dealt with.
Well, some of the cases include that of Justinder Lowell Douglas, a 24-year-old man from Newtown in Birmingham. He admitted handling stolen goods, almost £5,000 worth of perfume from House of Fraser. He's awaiting sentence. Next, 20-year-old Ryan Christopher Kelly from Chelmsley Wood, who's been jailed for 6 months for looting a Birmingham newsagent of more than £3,500 worth of cigarettes. And thirdly, a 15-year-old boy who we can't identify for legal reasons, charged with burglary, stealing items worth around £20 and has been remanded in custody. Also, a 14-year-old girl, I understand, has been arrested by police in Wolverhampton. She was escorted to a police station where she's been questioned, escorted by actually a family member who suspected her of stealing clothes.
Incredibly young, some people, aren't they? Now, David Cameron said he wants tough sentences. Are the magistrates responding?
Well, I think courts have been taking a tough line. I've been to a number of cases where I've seen actually teenagers who've been sent away with probation orders, but clearly here today, one remanded in custody. It's not just young people involved, I should say. Through the courts in the last day, a 44-year-old man charged with possession of a CS gas spray. Now, there is another special court sitting this evening. It's in Birmingham. It's underway now and should finish by about 9:30 this evening.
OK, Ben, thanks very much indeed.
Well, on the day MPs were recalled to Westminster to debate the riots, politicians from our worst affected areas have clashed over the government's plans to cut police budgets. Our political editor Patrick Burns joins us from Westminster. Patrick, a lot of people saying tonight that it does seem like madness to cut police numbers after these riots.
Yes, Michael, and David Cameron's reply to that is that if indeed the police numbers seemed a bit thin on the ground at the outset, it's because they made, frankly, the mistake of seeing this as a public order issue initially rather than one of criminality. And he pledged that even after these economy measures have fed through, the police will still be able to muster the sort of surge in numbers that we saw on the streets of the West Midlands last night. Nevertheless, I put it to one of his cabinet colleagues, this is a strange time to be talking about cutting the police.
The police chief constable in the West Midlands has made it clear that he has adequate resources for policing. And I don't think there's any question, as the Prime Minister has made clear, of reopening that issue. The key point here is, first of all, to catch and then prosecute those who've been involved in outrageous and disgusting offences in Birmingham and across Britain.
So can you give us an idea of the sort of strength of feeling on the opposition benches then, Patrick?
Well, very strong indeed, Michael. A succession of our MPs, David Winnick, Richard Burden, Tom Watson, Pat McFadden, Rob Fleller, they all lined up to demand that the government reverse their plans to cut those police budgets. And indeed, one of our local MPs whose constituency saw some of the most serious disruption told me that those much vaunted plans to switch officers from the back office to the front line would be counterproductive.
I think that is just absolutely unbelievable. And indeed, there has been a memo from the Warwickshire Police leaked today inviting backroom staff to take voluntary redundancies with the clear indication that they will be replaced by police that are currently on frontline duties. That, to me, demonstrates the sheer fallaciousness of the Prime Minister's position.
So, Patrick, is this one of those issues that could actually drive a wedge between the coalition partners?
I have to say, Michael, that I've seen no real sign of that so far as the Liberal Democrats are concerned. They seem to be concentrating most of their fire on challenging Labour to say where they would make cuts instead if they want to try and stave off these proposed cuts to the police service.
There's a question of deployment, but we have two statements today. One is about the finances, and we know that the government's plan is to have around about 40% of the GDP of the national cake spent on public services. That's more than in the first two Blair governments. Now, if you don't get your deficit under control, you pay a higher interest rate and you have more cuts. So Labour's strategy is just to have either more cuts or they have to tell us where the money's coming from.
And incidentally, such is the demand from MPs to speak in this emergency debate that's actually been extended by a further hour. They will continue on until 8 o'clock tonight. And with that, Michael, this is now back to you.
Patrick Burns, thank you.
Well, we're joined now by the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police, Chris Sims. Very good evening to you, Mr. Sims, and thanks for coming in. Thankfully, a quiet night last night. Monday and Tuesday, though, sickening scenes, I have to say, from watching it myself, the violence and looting. Aren't you worried, as we've heard MPs are there, that if these police cuts that are planned come in, you won't be able to cope with future situations like this?
Well, I haven't come here to talk about cuts and budgets. I don't think the people of West Midlands would want to hear me talking about that sort of thing.
Well, the MPs are talking
when
about
we're
it.
still in the middle of dealing with an operational set of challenges.
But you wouldn't be able to cope, would you?
No, I've come to talk about the operational challenges that we face now.
Well, OK, well, let's talk about that then.
It's for politicians at a later date to think about budgets. OK,
Mr. Sims, well, we saw on Monday and Tuesday, as I say, breathtaking scenes, some of them, of people looting quite brazenly, police seeming to be holding back at some point.
No, what you have seen is almost 400 people arrested in those 2 days, more arrests to follow. My officers doing some fantastic work, brave work, in order to bring the situation under control, to get a climate of deterrence back so that people don't think they can commit offences with impunity, and to get control back on the streets.
Okay.
And that's what you're seeing now. And that's what you will continue to see.
But on Monday night, pictures were very different, weren't they? You've got to understand, Mr. Sims, that ordinary law-abiding members of the public can't understand why you didn't just move in and arrest people. Sometimes there were lines of police and people walking off with,
sorry to interrupt,
with TVs and things.
I've been all day receiving support from political leaders, from members of the community. I think, with respect, they seem to have a better understanding of what officers were dealing with than you seem to have from your desk in the studio.
Well, interesting you say that. I've spoken to one officer who is a West Midlands police officer who said, I can't tell you who that is, but I can say that they say that the police tactics were pink and fluffy policing. Officers, they say on the ground, know what needs to be done, but high-ranking officers won't let them. So what do you say to that then?
I say that 400 people are currently facing prosecution as a result of the tactics that we used. We have gone in the most robust way to protect people in the West Midlands. We will continue to do that. I don't know who that officer is. I suspect he was probably a long way from the action where his colleagues or her colleagues were facing real danger and making snap decisions to do the right thing to protect people in the West Midlands.
Nobody's saying your officers weren't brave at all, don't get me wrong there, but what I would also like to sort of talk to you about as well is you've actually been to see Tariq Jahan today, haven't you? The father, obviously, of one of the 3 men that were killed in the early hours of yesterday morning. I mean, what he had to say was incredibly powerful, and you said that too. Very humbling to hear a man who's grieving to come out with that kind of a speech.
I was honoured to be invited to the House. It was a private conversation. I wanted to pay my condolences to the family. I wanted to say on behalf of my colleagues and the wider community that we were all astounded at the bravery and frankness of the intervention that he made. At the time that he was suffering as a father, he found it within himself to come forward to represent the wishes of the community. And I told him, in my view, he made the difference between last night becoming an issue of violence between sections of the community, and instead we had a night of relative calm.
And hopefully again tonight. You've got an incredible amount of officers on the streets tonight, haven't you? Is it 6,000? Am I correct in saying that?
Last night, around 10 o'clock, we peaked at 6,000. We've got a similar pattern in place tonight.
The people of the West Midlands are safe tonight then?
With support from colleagues in Scotland, support from across the region, we will do everything we can to not only make the streets safe, but to offer a deterrence for people who want to cause trouble.
Chief Constable, thanks very much indeed for taking the time to come in this evening.
Well, there was indeed no major trouble on the streets of the region last night after 2 nights of lawlessness, looting and rioting. And Birmingham and the Black Country started to return to something like normal today.
But boarded up shops and windows betrayed the fact that it's not yet quite business as usual, with trade down by millions of pounds. Joan Riddle has this report.
Birmingham city centre and West Bromwich were welcoming shoppers back today. In Birmingham, many we spoke to were shocked by the aftermath of the riots.
I'm keen to meet a friend, and we were meant to meet on Tuesday, so we delayed it until today because we now feel safer, although I'm sort of shocked looking round.
Just got to carry on, haven't you? What can you do? Just let them stop life completely and put everyone to a halt, no?
This newsagent has spent 26 years building up her business. One of her 2 shops in the city centre had a brick thrown through the window.
We've got to recompensate losses, got to pay my staff, you know, pay the bills. Somebody's got to pay for that because of these idiots who come here.
Business as usual for a dry cleaners, refusing to close early.
We can't let these people win. We have to make a stand and show them that we're not going to back down and carry on as normal.
The gleaming office blocks in the city centre may not be boarded up, but there's a hidden cost. The Chamber of Commerce estimates that sending staff home early in financial and legal firms could have cost £3.5 million, and there's a global reputation to protect too.
I don't think it's going to take us long to forget the riots. It might take a bit longer to recover some of that reputational damage. Pictures that have gone not just across this country, but probably more worryingly in overseas markets, in China, in India, in Brazil, in Russia, countries that we're saying we want you to come and invest in Birmingham because it's a brilliant city to do business in.
The Bullring initially told us it would stay open until 8 o'clock tonight. Within a few hours, they revised that to 6 p.m.
A spokeswoman for the Bullring shopping centre said additional security measures had been put in place, adding, as always, our primary concern is for the safety of shoppers and retailers, and we continue to work closely with the police.
In West Bromwich, a vibrant scene, all a far cry from the terror it suffered.
This needs to stop. And, you know, we're a community, it's a multicultural community, and people need to work together.
A bit more relaxed, but I think they should be dealt with severely, really severely.
Back in Birmingham tonight, a quiet scene by the usually teeming restaurants outside the mailbox. Birmingham and West Bromwich are slowly returning to normal, but memories of the last few days are still vivid. Joanne Riddle, BBC Midlands Today.
Well, Joanne joins us now from Birmingham City Centre. So, Joanne, what's the situation there now?
Well, much calmer, much more peaceful as people make their way home from work and shopping and so on. The newsagents featured in my report earlier, just behind me, that's still open right now as planned, having closed earlier the last few nights. It's planning to stay open until at least 9 o'clock tonight. Well, West Midlands Police have the same heavy presence out here, about 1,000 public order trained officers. Meanwhile, over in the Jewellery Quarter, one bar owner has said on his Facebook page that he's determined that it's business as usual tonight. He will not be deterred by the troublemakers.
Joe, thanks very much indeed.
So an air of normality returning to the streets of Birmingham tonight. A huge relief, obviously, for all those who live, work and care about the city. And joining us now is the leader of Birmingham City Council, Councillor Mike Whitby. First of all, if I may, your reaction, really, to what's been happening over the past few days?
Well, it's been terrible and it's been very sad, and it's something that we don't want to experience again.
As simple as that, really?
Oh, yes, it's a terrible experience. It has harmed our reputation. It's obviously it's dented people's prosperity, but what's more, it's frightened many people. And at the moment, whilst we all desire normality, we are creeping towards normality.
So the question has to be, what do we do about it? And from a city council's point of view, what do you do about it? I mean, we've heard Salford, Greenwich, and today Nottingham saying those who are found guilty of criminality, if they're in council houses, they'll try and evict them and so on. Is Birmingham taking that route?
I'm not sure what route we will take, but certainly we are working in conjunction with the police, and anybody caught needs to be punished, and the due process of the law needs to be actually meted out to them.
But would you be tempted to do that? Because we have seen, I know it's not just in Birmingham, but you're from Birmingham City Council, yes. We've seen terrible scenes in Birmingham, and we've got 3 councils now acting robustly against people if they're found guilty. What robust action is the council going to do here?
I think at the moment we'll certainly ensure that those people that go around intimidating, dressed in an intimidating fashion, and the police actually capture them, and they are then actually utilising our services, there's got to be a relationship between that, and there's got to be some penalty around that. I've only just heard...
All right, meaning what? People who are using your services and a penalty, how do you mean?
Well, we haven't made our decision yet, and I don't particularly want to make the decision here. I think we now have the power to evict people, but there are social consequences, of course, and if you evict people, where do they go? And so what we don't want to do is actually just immediately respond to it. However, it appeals, and there ought to be some form of punishment, and I know your viewers are quite rightly saying the actions that we've witnessed, the moronic idiocy, and definitely the criminality needs to be punished, and we will do all we can to ensure that we do that.
To what extent do you hold with this argument that people are reacting to what they're seeing around, the cuts and so on, the difficulties they're facing in their lives, and Birmingham City Council is making cuts, and in making cuts in areas that some people say matter to these young people? Does that have anything to do with it in your mind?
I walked up Dudley Road the morning after the sad death of the 3 young men, and I spoke to a whole range of people, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, black, white, brown, from all over the world, and all of them to a person said that the people looting and rioting were just fundamentally criminals. It was not related to that.
And yet what we're seeing now, empty streets, we saw just then shots of police officers running. This is the image that's going around Birmingham, around the world of Birmingham. That has to be a problem for you.
No, it's not. For 1 hour, I've just quickly gone up to the cricket. It's full, we're winning, we're doing well. We are carrying out as much as we can in normal conditions. But there's a healing process to go on. We've got to review what we've learned. We've got to liaise, certainly with the police. We've got to certainly liaise with the community.
So a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do. This is the healing process. Bridges to be built.
Mike Whitby, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, the Home Office is considering banning a demonstration by the English Defence League in Telford on Saturday. The local council has made an application to stop it taking place.
It's come too late for Telford United Football Club, though. Their game against Luton Town has been called off. Ben Sidwell reports.
Businesses in Wellington in Telford are preparing for the worst on Saturday. Nearly all are closing. Many are also boarding up windows for the arrival of the English Defence League.
I think it's a waste of resources and a waste of time. I hate it. It's causing us so much heartache, wondering if we've even got a shop to come back to.
They would be foolish to not realise the strength of feeling of the people around here. They do not want this march. There's nothing good that can come out of it. We're just saying to them, EDL, please, can you leave the march this time?
Following the trouble around the country over the last few days, police have asked Telford and Wrekin Council to try and get the Home Secretary to ban Saturday's march.
The police think it's the right thing to do, the council think it's the right thing to do, and the Muslim, Wellington and business community also think it's the right thing to do.
At AFC Telford United, that ban will come too late to save their opening game of the season. Everything was ready for the arrival of Luton Town, and a crowd of around 5,000 were expected. The club had already moved the fixture twice from its original 3 o'clock start, first to a lunchtime kick-off and then to one of 7:45 in the evening. But yesterday, West Mercia Police asked them to call the game off altogether, leaving the club and the football conference no choice but to postpone the match. Banning the march doesn't stop people from gathering on Saturday, but people here hope it will be enough of a deterrent to keep them away. Ben Sidwell, BBC Midlands Today, Wellington.
Some other news now. The owner of Birmingham City Football Club has been banned from leaving Chinese territory after appearing in a Hong Kong court on money laundering charges. Carson Young's defence team offered to increase his bail payments to almost £250,000 so he could fly to Birmingham for this weekend's home game. But a magistrate ruled that he's got to remain in China, ready for another court appearance later this month.
Profits at the Midlands car maker Jaguar Land Rover are up following strong sales in China and Russia. The firm made pre-tax profits of £248 million in the second quarter of the year. That's a rise of £9 million on the same time last year. Sales of vehicles are up 5% to 62,000. Well, let's find out what the forecast has in store. Here, Shafali.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Well, things are beginning to clear up now, so I don't think the weather is going to pose too many problems for the cricket over the next 3 days. Perhaps the greatest risk of being caught out, excuse the pun, is over the weekend when we've got a few showers. And the nature of showers being what they are, it's very difficult to pinpoint where they're going to occur. But as far as tonight's showers go, well, we're going to see those moving away to the south. They're just about out of the way now, but there's an area of rain just to the north that just may encroach into parts of Staffordshire later tonight. But apart from that, it's looking dry tonight. It's quite cloudy as well, with a few clearer spells further south, but temperatures are dropping down to about 15 to 16 Celsius, so it's still quite warm, still quite muggy, and that could produce some mist patches over the hilltops to the north. The winds are easing right down as well tonight, so that's going to make it feel more muggy. But during the morning tomorrow, it's a bit grey and a bit murky in places, but gradually through the day we'll start to see some brighter, sunnier spells breaking through, and as you can see, it's largely dry. There is, however, an area of rain sitting out to the west, and we may just get some splinter spots of rain heading our way through the afternoon. Apart from that, nothing disruptive. Temperatures are up to about 20 to 21 Celsius, so again it's a warm day and with lighter winds from that southwesterly direction. Now moving on to the tomorrow night, that's when we start to see this rain heading eastwards. You can see that it's turning a bit patchier the further east it goes, but there is a fairly narrow band of it. Some of it could turn heavier from time to time, but it's not too wet tomorrow night, and it's going to be mild and muggy once again. But as I said, for the weekend, we're looking at showers. Okay, Shafali, thanks very much indeed.
So look now at tonight's main headlines. Hunting down the rioters, police make more arrests as David Cameron pledges whatever it takes to restore law and order.
And here, a Chief Constable pays tribute to a grieving father's appeal for an end to the violence.
And that's all from us this evening, but on tomorrow's programme we will be looking more at the challenge Birmingham and the Midlands faces now, marketing themselves around the world.
That is it for now, though. Have a very good evening, won't you? Bye-bye.
She used to be Ron